Part 81. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 807. Wang Xiaohu deeply doubted whether Brother Lin was demonized. Because, since that night, after sneaking back to the village from Qingyu Mountain, Brother Lin has been staring at the air in a daze all day long, mumbling something. As for what was being said, Wang Xiaohu couldn't hear it clearly. It seems to be finding something to be yourself, weird and weird. Although Brother Lin is weird. But every time Wang Xiaohu thinks of his experience in Qingyu Mountain, his blood boils again. So exciting. This made Wang Xiaohu deeply convinced and felt that this was life. The white horse holds the sword, and the world of mortals is the company, so elegant and unrestrained. Oh, thinking about it like this, Wang Xiaohu felt a little excited. As a result, Wang Xiaohu stared at Yilin even more closely. He was afraid that Yilin would run away secretly and go to the arena without him. Therefore, Wang Xiaohu simply hugged a quilt and slept in the door of Yilin's house, day or night. He pressed his back against the door bolt, and no one could open the door without his permission. Yilin was naturally aware of Wang Xiaohu's mentality. Yilin dismissed this. I really want to run, do I still need to take the main entrance? Climbing through windows, climbing over walls, and going through the back door, isn't it cool for him? Therefore, Yilin felt that Wang Xiaohu was not very smart. To use the apostle slang, this guy is a typical power player. But after thinking about it, I thought it would be good to go on the road with me as a spiritual person. Yilin began to think about the possibility of training Wang Xiaohu into a human shield. He climbed out of the window and floated to the roof. Wang Xiaohu's snoring sounded from inside the house. Gaojiam Mei, Bai Xiaoi, and Nai Hongxiu appeared behind Yilin one after another. Over the years, both the three of them and Yilin have become accustomed to each other's existence, becoming like family members. Even Bai Xiaoi, who had always disliked Gaojiam's beauty, was numb to it. Gaojiam only had about 100 outfits that came and went. She changed them all over the past 12 years, but her master was unmoved. What did she, Bai Xiaoi, have to worry about? Unless Gaojiam can come up with new tricks, Bai Xiaoi won't be able to make trouble. Time to go. Yilin looked at the full moon as big as a basin, sighed softly, and made a decision. 3 days later, it was Lin Yi's 13th birthday. In this world, a boy is 13 years old and has just shed his childishness. He is now an adult and is eligible to perform coming-of-age rites. The night before Yilin's 13th birthday, before falling asleep, she opened the door of the Lin family's room. At this moment, the Lin family couple was secretly having a headache in the room, how to raise the funds needed for the birthday banquet. There's no need to spend money, Dad and Mom. Yilin's expression was calm. She looked at her parents with a dull expression on her old wrinkled face. She slowly knelt in front of her parents and bowed her head deeply. Kowtow. He remained motionless in this posture and said softly, there is gold under a man's knees. I, Yilin, have never knelt before. But I feel that even if you don't believe in gods and Buddhas, and don't worship the sky or the earth, your parents can do it. Yilin raised his head and expressed his feelings in the silence of the Lin family and his wife. I didn't have a chance in the past. But today, Lin Yi thanks you for giving me this opportunity. After Yilin finished speaking, he said goodbye. Second kowtow. Thank you for your support over the past 13 years. The Lin family couple shed tears in silence. They looked at Yilin, who had an unusually mature look on her face, and vaguely understood something. Yilin moved swiftly, without hesitation or tears. From the beginning to the end, he acted very calmly, but there was a faint sigh in his eyes. 3 kowtows. When Yilin raised her head, she smiled. The free and easy youthful spirit was mixed with the mature calmness in her soul, leaving the Lin family and his wife stunned. The young man smiled and said, Sorry, kid, I made my own decision without consulting my parents. Tomorrow I will leave Qingyu village with Xiaohu and explore the world. Father Lin's hands were full of wrinkles and old scars. Those are a pair of hands belonging to an old carpenter and an old father. He used that hand to touch Yi Lin's hair tremblingly. After sighing, Father Lin didn't say anything more or ask any more questions. He just said one word, okay. Mother Lin hid in bed and burst into tears. The next day, Lin's 13th birthday. It was supposed to be a day of celebration, but the Lin family house was filled with broken pieces of divorce. The eyes of both the Lin family and his wife were red. But Father Lin laughed heartily and patted Yi Lin on the shoulder. My son finally walked out of Qingyu village. This is a big event that can be recorded in the family tree. Yi Lin put a wooden nail and a basket of phantom grenades that had been prepared in advance into Father Lin's hands. He first taught Father Lin how to throw grenades. The second is to explain the usage of wooden nails carefully. Finally, Yi Lin explained everything and warned with a straight face, the surrounding area of Qingyu village is already very safe. Generally, bandits will not come over the mountains to rob this poor place. But if you are really in danger, first throw the grenade, then break the wooden peg, and walk all the way to Qingyu mountain and don't look back. There are magic lines specially made by Yi Lin in the wooden nails. Yi Lin calls it a mother-in-law nail. Once the mother nail breaks, the daughter nail will also break. Bai Chu agreed and would help take care of the villagers in Qingyu village. The corresponding price Yi Lin paid was to hand over the same mother nail to Bai Chu. When she encounters danger, Yi Lin must find a way to help her. Here's the deal. After convincing, there is coercion, and after coercion, there is a little bit of inducement. Yi Lin is quite skilled at playing this set. Bai Chu agreed. This was a deal with no capital and huge profits. No matter what she said, she was still a century-old tigress that had taken the form of a 100-year-old tigress, and the basics were there. If the rat demon that Yi Lin shot and turned into a specimen was placed in front of the tigress, it would be gone forever. With Bai Chu sitting in Qingyu mountain, Qingyu village is relatively safe. After arranging everything, Yi Lin and Wang Xiaohu can finally go on their way with peace of mind. Speaking of Wang Xiaohu, he stood behind Yi Lin with a confused expression. He fainted for no reason last night and didn't know how to fix it. When he woke up, the back of his head hurt a little, but Brother Lin suddenly agreed to take him out of the village. So Wang Xiaohu was in a state of confusion. He felt that the back of his head no longer hurt, his waist was no longer sore, and his whole body was full of strength. The Wang family couple next door also came to the door of the forest house to see off the two young heroes as they left the village, crying. They didn't go through any psychological construction. They just left overnight, so they cried very sadly. They cried and cried until finally the whole village was alarmed. The villagers thought it was something at first, but when they asked, even the girls in the village were startled. What was supposed to be a low-key trip suddenly turned into a farewell event for the whole village. Before leaving, Father Lin quietly stuffed a dusty oilcloth bag into Yi Lin's hand before the villagers completely surrounded him. The oilcloth was wrapped layer by layer, and it was wrapped into an oval ball. It was so bulging that it was impossible to tell what was hidden inside. At first, Yi Lin thought it was a chicken leg that Lin's father had treasured for 10 years. She thought that the dust on the cloth bag was almost turned into pulp. She wanted to refuse, but Lin's father opened it in front of Yi Lin and saw that it was actually a chicken leg. A book with a tattered cover and yellowed inner pages. It turns out that this is the legacy of the ancients. Yi Lin suddenly realized when she saw the treasured secret book. After wandering around for a long time, it turned out that the secret book was hidden by Lin's father. No wonder Yi Lin didn't find it. He took the secret book and took a look. The few words that should have been written on the cover of the secret book have been completely corroded, and the whole picture cannot be recognized. Only one word is left, wind. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 808. 3 hours later. Wang Xiaohu felt a little sore in his balls. The picture he imagined of wielding a sword and a white horse and running wild in the world was completely destroyed. They left Qingnu village, rode their bikes, and walked on the official road. It's an ox cart. 2 old scalpers led the 2 of them on their way slowly. Brother Lin, whom he longed for, was lying lazily on the soft haystack, closing his eyes and concentrating. Brother Lin didn't mention it, and Wang Xiaohu didn't dare to ask any more questions. He could only slap the cow's butt and adjust the direction of the cart from time to time. Yilin seemed to be sleeping, but actually she wasn't asleep either. He was thinking about the secret book. That secret book, if Yilin guessed correctly, actually had something to do with him. Cloud Body Wind Body Technique. This is the ancient secret book passed down from generation to generation of the Lin family. Yilin also drew a skill before, which was the incomplete Cloud Body Wind Body Technique. Moreover, when Yilin was in the world of Auranos, one of the assassin template skills that increased the chance of dodge was also called Cloud Body Wind Body. Maybe it's a powerful skill? Yilin nodded secretly. Now, there is a chance to complete it. But what is the use of this skill? Yilin was puzzled. Since getting that skill and playing it a few times, Yilin has never used it again. What makes Yilin even more depressed is that there is no way to learn and use that classic book with just a slap of the palm. Do we really want to practice enlightenment and practice honestly like in the movies? It's not that troublesome, right? Xiao 11, since you still have the ability to leave recordings and messages after 5,000 years, can't you make the secret book into a convenient and useful prop? Is it difficult for you? It's not difficult. Yilin secretly slandered the superior god in her heart. Humph, a mere god. Brother Lin, where should we go next? Wang Xiaohu asked quickly when he saw that Yilin finally opened her eyes and muttered something dissatisfied. Yilin pointed in a direction, all the way north. Wang Xiaohu was stunned and scratched his head. Why? Yilin sat upright from the haystack, rolled his eyes, and wondered whether to laugh or cry. Why do you need to ask? We know nothing about the world outside Qingnu village, and the nearest town to Qingnu village is about 6 months to the north. Shangping County is 10 miles away. When you go to a place with people, just throw stones and ask for directions. Throwing stones to ask for directions, Wang Xiaohu once again slowly asked a question mark at the fresh dialect in Yilin's mouth. He was waiting for a reasonable explanation of the term. Yes, throwing stones to ask for directions. Yilin nodded without explaining. Throwing stones to ask for directions is just throwing stones to ask for directions. There is nothing to explain. Actually, Yilin was not in a hurry. He can go east, west, north, or south. Bai Chuchu had already told him the location of the wordless monument she knew. Moreover, for 5,000 years, the location of the wordless sky monument has been no secret. Just ask someone and you will get the answer. This is not the difficulty of the main quest. Xiao 11 left 10 messages and 7 keys for Yilin in this world. What Yilin is looking for must be in these 10 messages. But what are those 7 keys? Since you know that I will go to Qingnu Mountain, why don't you just dig a hole and bury it, and then let me dig it out? Yilin always felt that Xiao 11's arrangement seemed to have taken a huge detour and would kill someone. Although she had some objections to Xiao 11's arrangement, Yilin could only move forward along this path. While walking, Wang Xiaohu, who was so far away from the village for the first time, began to show discomfort. He began to miss the village where he was born and raised. Of course you missed it. Yilin still felt a little angry when she thought of Wang Xiaohu's movements when he left the village. Then, the whole village cried to bid farewell to Wang Xiaohu, as if they were bidding farewell to a hero. Instead, when they turned to Yilin, everyone's faces changed. Their faces were pink and black, and their eyes were formidable, as if Yilin was the villain who kidnapped the rising star of Qingyu village. Especially the girls from Qingyu village who were about to get married, each one cried hoarsely and begged Brother Tiger not to be deceived by evil people and not to leave Qingyu village. They looked at Yilin with eyes that were full of excitement. He is about to shoot out his murderous aura. Same people but different fates. The old scalper was not meant to be a mount for traveling long distances. After walking 10 miles, as soon as they left the village gate, the two old scalpers became a little lame, their noses were shaking, and they refused to go any further. Brother Lin, what should I do? Come down. Yilin thought that it was almost done. The old scalper's speed was just that, and there was no way to speed up. He originally estimated that he would only let the scalper drive him for a part of the way, but he was not naive enough to think that he could rely on the old scalper to drive the entire journey. Yilin looked at the two oxen and felt a little moved when she thought of the strong beef brisket. But Wang Xiaohu slapped the cow's butt and made the two old scalpers run away in the direction of the village. Although the two old scalpers have not developed their intelligence, they are not monsters. But they were vaguely aware that one of the two teenagers, one with a fierce face, had hidden murderous intent, so he ran very fast and slippery. Wang Xiaohu stared at the two old scalpers, then ran away in a flash, and was stunned for a moment. Can't this still run? It's pretty fast. After driving away the old scalper, Yilin and Wang Xiaohu had no choice but to change from cavalry to infantry. Yilin secretly thought it was a pity. If Bai Chuchu hadn't been asked to stay at Qingyu Mountain and help him look after the village, he would have ridden the big white tiger all the way north. Wouldn't it be fun? That tiger monster is good looking, has a wide back, can run fast, and can be whipped with a whip. Apart from being a little high profile, it has no other shortcomings. It is a perfect choice for a demon mount. Pity. Yilin shook her head, chose the right direction, and walked ahead. Yilin had already hunted down all the bandits near Qingyu village and almost killed them. As Yilin and Wang Xiaohu drifted further and further away from the boundary of Qingyu Mountain, the official road began to become lively. Rushing during the day and finding a place to hide at night is the consensus of the caravans of the Dacian dynasty. Most bandits like to go out at night to fight in the autumn wind. At sunset, as expected, Yilin found many traces of horse hoofs on the official road. Come this way. Yilin squatted on the ground and looked at the messy horse hoof marks. Using rough tracking methods, he quickly found a group of bandits resting in the forest. The robbers all had knives on their waists, and their strong horses were tied to the trees. The robbers were happily chatting about their gains from the day's expedition and their next action plan, and did not notice the approach of the two teenagers. You hide first, I'll go step on the spot. Yilin patted Wang Xiaohu on the shoulder and asked him to squat in the grass with peace of mind. When Wang Xiaohu turned around, Yilin had disappeared. He pondered over the words Yilin left, and the more he thought about it, the more unpleasant it became. What's the point? Who steps in? This? Who are the rogue robbers? After a while, Yilin came back again, startling Wang Xiaohu. Wang Xiaohu truly admired Yilin's ability to appear and disappear. Okay, there's a gang of robbers, 12 of them, all equipped with knives. Let's go. Superior. When Wang Xiaohu looked confused, Yilin had already kicked Wang Xiaohu out. Boom. The tall Wang Xiaohu fell in the middle of the group of robbers like a human bomb. The robbers were obviously frightened by this little tiger descended from the sky. Some of them even poured the liquor they had just poured into their mouths and flowed down the corners of their mouths, looking astonished. Quite suddenly, taking advantage of Wang Xiaohu's bait to work, Yilin turned into a shadow and silently approached the robbers' backs. In fact, it wouldn't take much effort for Yilin to deal with the robbers. But he wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to do justice and try out new skills. Shadow kill Lian Zhu. In an instant, the shadow on the ground twisted enchantingly and turned into Yulin's upper body. Yulin was highly concentrated and locked onto the backs of the 12 robbers' heads. There were exactly 2 rounds of bullets, which was quite a coincidence. Bang 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 dash. Intensive gunshots rang out, and the instinct from the soul made Yulin explode with speed, and 12 bullets were fired almost at the same time. The rapid friction caused white smoke to emit from the muzzles of Xiaohong and Xiaobai. At the same time, 12 blood pillars sprayed out high, more than 10 meters high, a blood pillar that was 3 stories high. It was so bloody. Not only Wang Xiaohua, but also Yulin herself was shocked by her own special effects. He almost forgot that before he came to this world, he upgraded Shadow Kill to 1 level. In addition to penetration and destruction, it also had an additional bloody effect. 13 years later, Yulin had almost forgotten about this incident. This bloody scene suddenly brought back Yulin's memories that had been dormant for many years. The 12 headless corpses peacefully closed their eyes and fell limply, the heads around their necks were missing, and blood spurted out and flowed all over the ground. Wang Xiaohu had never seen such a battle before. He still maintained the same posture as when he landed, not daring to move. He watched helplessly as his friend from the same village walked toward him step by step through a pool of blood with a calm expression. As he walked, he swung 2 strange magic weapons and stuffed them into his trouser pockets. This scene really scared Wang Xiaohua. He was afraid that his friend from the same village would become perverted and destroy him. It wasn't until Yulin skillfully packed up the money scattered by the robbers in a cloth bag that Wang Xiaohua gradually came back to his senses and called Yulin with some uncertainty, "Brother Lin." Yulin's face showed a smile full of the simplicity of a young man, and his eyes were pure and innocent. "What are you doing standing around? Don't you see those horses? Ride on, let's start walking." "Oh, oh, oh." Wang Xiaohu looked like he had lost 6 souls and was confused. But when Yulin ordered him, he still habitually obeyed Yulin's instructions, spread his hips and rode on the horse that once belonged to the bandit. Now beside the corpses on the ground, only Wang Xiaohua, an acquaintance, was left. Yulin stopped pretending, showed her cards, took off on the spot, and landed lightly on the horse. Shelf. Yulin carried a bulging bag of loot on his back and rode his horse all the way north. Wang Xiaohu also rode a few steps away. He suddenly turned back and looked at the corpses and mess everywhere. Inexplicably, a word flashed through his mind, Jianghu. It's just that this world is somewhat different from the beauty he originally imagined. But why is Brother Lin so skilled? While wondering, Wang Xiaohu picked up a bandit's weapon. It was a broad-headed scimitar, polished to a shiny shine, suitable for slashing. Wang Xiaohu was full of doubts, equipped with a sword, and rode a horse, which was quite a bit like fighting a grey horse with a sword, robbing homes and homes. All the way north. They walked and stopped, rested when they were tired, and then continued on the road after resting. They ate dry food and drank water from the stream. The 2 of them traveled all night. Finally, early the next morning, 2 innocent teenagers who had just stepped out of Qingyu village arrived in Shangping County. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 809. Morning Queen. When the 2 arrived in Shangping County, the weather happened to change. Dark clouds pressed down on the county town, and a hazy drizzle began to fall. But look at that day, it won't be long before something happens. There were only a few people on the road, and 2 white-haired old guards were guarding the gate of Shangping County. But when it comes to guarding, in fact, it is not completely guarded. Just when Yulin and Wang Xiaohu had just deposited their horses at the inn next to the city gate, they happened to see 2 dedicated veterans waking up, yawning and walking in, leaving Shangping County empty. Is the defense so lax? Yilin and Wang Xiaohu looked at each other. Didn't they say that the world outside was desolate, bandits were raging, and the market was not good? But taking advantage of the gap between the city gates, Yilin directly pulled Wang Xiaohu into the city. Yilin discovered something on the road. The money they got from the robbers had the inscription of a certain bank printed on it. If it were to be traced, the origin would be hard to explain. A good example of robbing the rich and giving to the poor may be misunderstood in the end. Shangping County, Shangping County, Shangping County. The name of this county town is good. But when the two stepped in, they had no intention of singing and dancing. There are many homeless beggars squatting beside the avenue. They habitually beg from passers-by. I'm hungry, please give up. I have an 80-year-old mother and a 7-year-old son. My humble wife is still disabled. Save the child, I haven't had a full meal for 18 days. Someone was crying. Someone screamed. Someone shouted hungry. The beggars had just stretched out their hands to Yilin and Wang Xiaohu out of habit. When they looked up, they saw that they were actually hairy boys, and they immediately retracted their hands into their sleeves unluckily. Looking again, they saw that Wang Xiaohu was tall, with a knife on his waist. Immediately, they did not dare to beg. They shivered and retracted their hands into their ragged sleeves, pretending that they had never begged before. Wang Xiaohu saw how pitiful they were and reached out to touch them. Not long ago, Yilin deposited part of the silver in Wang Xiaohu because the silver was too heavy. Yilin saw Wang Xiaohu's plan, gently pressed her friend's hand that was about to make a move, and shook her head without leaving any trace. Wang Xiaohu hesitated for a few seconds, but still chose to follow Yilin's opinion. The two communicated silently, without attracting anyone else's attention. Boom! A thunder cracked through the dark clouds. The bright light of lightning made their faces turn pale. Then, a heavy downpour fell, shattering all over the ground. It's raining. Run! As soon as it started to rain heavily, all the beggars who had seemed weak and out of breath just now ran away with a roar. Wang Xiaohu stared blankly at the beggars who dispersed in a hurry, wondering why the poor man who just kept talking about not having enough to eat for 18 days could run more agilely than Wang Xiaohu. What are you doing standing around? Hurry up and get out of the rain. Yilin smiled and gave Wang Xiaohu a hand, while she erected an invisible thought umbrella above her head to block the rain. The two of them followed the eaves, past the market, and came to a luxurious building. This should be considered a bustling city in Shangping County. But at the moment, because of the bad weather, the heavy rain can even make holes in the umbrella strip, so the streets are lonely and empty of pedestrians. Where can we go to get shelter from the rain? Yilin quickly looked around for a moment and pointed in one direction. Wang Xiaohu looked in the direction of Yilin's finger and suddenly took a breath of cold air. Wangxiang Tower? Wait, Brother Lin, is this the legendary place of fireworks, the brothel? Wang Xiaohu was shocked. He never expected Yilin to be such a person. How old are you? He also grew up under the influence of Uncle Niu's stories. Whenever Uncle Niu talks about the most famous and coveted place Wangxiang Tower in Dongsheng, China, he always subconsciously adds a lot of wonderful ink. Even though Uncle Niu cared about the innocence of children, the meaning revealed in his few words was that Wangxiang Tower was not a serious place. After a while, only then did Wang Xiaohu realize that he had thought wrongly and had misunderstood. It turns out that Yilin was referring to the tea house next door to Wangxiang House. The name on the plaque of the tea house is slightly unique, San Pinxian. There were many people sitting in San Pingsuan taking shelter from the rain. Some people who seemed to have no money were kicked out directly by a tall and impressive spectator in front of the tea house. When Yilin and Wang Xiaohu stepped into the tea house, dusty, when the tall man's gaze fell on Yilin's face, he first showed disgust. Then he quickly turned to Wang Xiaohu, and his eyes finally fell on the broad knife on Wang Xiaohu's waist. Then he squinted his eyes, grinned, and said with a full smile, "Hey, the guest sir is looking at you. You two are full of nobility. When you look at it, this is not an ordinary gentleman. Come on, you two gentlemen, have a seat in the tea house. Come on, please give me a seat in the tea house." It seems that Wang Xiaohu's hidden charm value is really not low. Yilin muttered secretly. It seems that Wang Xiaohu was really the right person to bring along on this trip. It's very useful. At the very least, it saves a lot of trouble. But Wang Xiaohu's face doesn't look like the kind of person with high charm. Charm and charm really don't depend on your face, right? Stepping into the tea house, Yilin habitually observed the surrounding environment. Even after spending 13 years here, Yilin still hasn't forgotten the little habits he made during the trials as an apostle. There was a middle-aged storyteller, shaking a paper fan, telling various anecdotes in the tea house with great interest. A group of tea drinkers gathered around the storyteller, saying hello and applauding from time to time. On every tea table, there are groups of 3 or 5 chatting about Jianghu affairs. In the most conspicuous position of Sanpingsuan, there is a calligraphy work posted. In Yilin's opinion, the calligraphy is ordinary, but the content is somewhat interesting: taste tea, taste people, taste everything in the world. The two of them sat on the second floor. There is an open-air balcony with tiles to cover your head, so the environment is not too bad. There was a lot of noise all around. The sounds of storytellers, conversations, rain, and the muted sounds from next door all mixed together like a market song. It was Wang Xiaohu's first time coming to the county town. He looked around like a country bumpkin. After a while, Yilin ordered a pot of hot tea and a few plates of delicate snacks, then sat down. Call. Wang Xiaohu poured a full cup of hot tea, cooled it with his mouth, then tilted his neck and took a big sip. It seemed that he was very tired from traveling all night, and he could finally rest. Yilin closed her eyes and began to listen. Wang Xiaohu watched as Yilin closed her eyes and said nothing, neither drinking tea nor eating. He gnawed the peanuts boredly and counted them one by one. The two were silent for a while, and Wang Xiaohu finally couldn't help it anymore. Thinking of what happened just now, he whispered with a bit of embarrassment, "Brother Lin, I just thought you were planning to go somewhere." Wang Xiaohu pursed his lips towards the partition wall, his meaning clear. Yilin didn't open her eyes and replied with a smile, "Maybe there will be a chance to go in and see something." Hiss. Wang Xiaohu took a breath. It rains heavily and the vegetation in my old hometown is deep. The rain lasted for half an hour. The lower it gets, the bigger it gets. The guests in the tea house were all trapped in the tea house and could not leave. The group could only pass the time by drinking tea and listening to the scholar tell stories. It was approaching noon, the sky was still dark, and the dark clouds had not subsided at all. It seemed that the long-awaited rain would continue for a while. On the street, due to the lack of drainage system, bursts of turbulent water flooded half of the street, like a shallow stream, with a constant sound of water. Yilin and Wang Xiaohu also sat in the private seats on the second floor for half an hour. Yilin asked people to refill the tea from time to time. The waiter carrying the teapot looked at Yilin and Wang Xiaohu's eyes after refilling the teapot for the 6th time. Something is wrong. Wang Xiaohu was also a little worried. They had been sitting here for a long time. If they continued to delay, something would happen every minute. Don't get me wrong, Wang Xiaohu is not worried about the two of them, but worried about the people in the tea house. No one who witnessed the bloody scene of Yilin killing bandits with his own eyes would naively think that Yilin was an innocent young man with no power. By the way, Brother Lin, aren't we leaving yet? Go. Yilin finally opened her eyes and looked at the latter speechlessly. Where are you going? This, Wang Xiaohu scratched his head, I don't know about this. That's it. Yilin finally took a sip of the cold tea in front of her, and then breathed a sigh of relief. It's really tiring to collect intelligence in this environment. Coming, coming, coming. Wang Xiaohu shook his head and became energetic. It's Brother Lin's dialect. Collect, intelligence. Wang Xiaohu asked. Yilin explained with a smile, a place where fish and dragons are mixed is the easiest place to collect information. When people are relaxed, sometimes they even inadvertently let slip and reveal some secrets. Brother Lin, what do you mean? Wang Xiaohu first quietly stretched out his finger and poked it downwards, meaning the tea guest downstairs. Then he looked at Yilin with more admiration in his eyes. Brother Lin, what do you know? Yilin raised the corners of her mouth and smiled. Just when she was about to say something, there was a strange movement downstairs. Shhh. Yilin made a gesture to silence Wang Xiaohu, but he stood up, walked to the eaves of the second floor, and looked outside. In the pouring rain, a guest in white clothes holding a snow-white paper umbrella came walking slowly across the water. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 810. In the pouring rain. The white-clothed guest's oil paper umbrella had a shimmering surface. Before the rain fell, it was separated by a few centimeters of light, which was very strange. And his steps were even stranger. Every time he took a step, the rushing water suddenly became as calm as a lake, with no more waves. I saw the guest in white making ripples with each step, and behind him, little splashes of water bloomed, like a lotus growing step by step. Something. Yilin watched the guests in white clothes walking slowly in the rain from the end of the street, and curiosity arose in her heart. Bai Chuchu, the mountain bully tigress of Qingyu Mountain, once said that those who know the art of cultivation, whether Buddha, Taoism, or demons, are collectively called Taoism. Being incompatible with the world is called Xian. As for demons, they are a different kind, invisible to light, and the public enemy of the human race. In Suanmen, it can be roughly divided into upper 3 gates, middle 3 gates and lower 3 gates. Outside the 9 gates, there are still some chaotic local forces, but Bai Chuchu doesn't know much about them. After all, the days when she traveled around the world were only a few decades. In addition, as time has passed over the years, she has lived in seclusion for a long time, and the world has changed. She dare not say anything about the current situation. But the upper, middle, and lower 9 gates are mostly intact. The information given by Bai Chuchu came to Yilin's mind, and she suddenly remembered Xiao 11's message number 1. In the message, Xiaoxi personally announced a main mission for herself. The 10 messages are not difficult to find, and you can find them out with a little asking. Only the 7 keys Xiao 11 mentioned, Yilin still has no clue about. Bai Chuchu also didn't know anything about it. Maybe we have to start with the monk forces. Yilin soon had an interesting idea. He quickly pushed Wang Xiaohu back to his seat, who was just about to stick his head out to watch curiously, and whispered a few instructions. Since Wang Xiaohu hung out with Yilin, he knew that their IQs were not on the same level. Although he didn't understand the meaning of Yilin's instructions, he didn't dare to ask more questions and nodded vigorously to show that he understood. After a few careful instructions, Yilin also sat back down. Wang Xiaohu pretended to be fine, ordered dishes boldly, and asked the waiter to bring a few plates of authentic snacks. The man in white is getting closer and closer. Under the tea house, there was no sound for a long time. All the tea guests who saw the guest in white clothes approaching seemed to be stunned by the character of the guest in white clothes. Pretending and standing up, it's so eye-catching. In this small square, the only thing left was the overwhelming sound coming from Wangxiang Tower next door, and the sound of heavy rain, which seemed to be the accompaniment of the guests in white. Yilin was sitting on her seat, her head hanging down, muttering secretly. How can we achieve maximum output with minimum consumption? While muttering, Yilin first stretched out an index finger, with the fingertip pointing upward. But soon he shook his head, feeling something was wrong. Soon he clenched his fist again, and raised it sharply. "Give you a punch." "Oh." The man in white clothes who was walking on the water suddenly turned pale. He suddenly clamped his legs together and his knees trembled. His originally straight waist instantly bent 45 degrees, and his whole body contracted into half a ball. On the first floor of the tea house, the tea guests who were admiring the grace of the guest in white suddenly opened their eyes like frightened birds. Crash! Some people even jumped back in fear and knocked over a bunch of chairs. How have ordinary people in this world ever seen such a battle? In their eyes, these people are all high-ranking immortal cultivators with great abilities. Not to mention that as soon as they bent down or stomped their feet, blood flowed around them, and no one was spared. The guest in white clothes was bending down and crossing his legs, which made people unpredictable and frightened the tea guests. The oil paper umbrella obscured the face of the man in white, making it difficult for people to see clearly his appearance. But his whole body was trembling violently, as if he was brewing some kind of power. I do not know how long it has been. Among the tea guests, there were bursts of swallowing dong-dong sounds. The guest in white clothes started to move again. He stood on the water, took a deep breath, moved his legs step by step, and stepped into the tea house. Click. The guest in white clothes put away his white umbrella and carried the oil paper umbrella behind his back, so that no water would stick to it. At this time, everyone saw the true appearance of the guest in white. Suddenly, there were dozens of tea-goers on the first floor, and they all exclaimed "good guy" in their hearts. I saw the man in white, dressed in white, with sword-shaped eyebrows and starry eyes, and his eyes were like lightning, and he was extraordinarily handsome. His sharp eyes quickly scanned the faces of the astonished tea guests one by one. His brows first wrinkled and then relaxed. He didn't know what made him unhappy, and there was hidden anger in his brows. The man in white glanced around and silently walked to the counter. A bright piece of silver floated out of his sleeve and landed silently on the counter. "Tianjianmen, Jian Nanshan, come here to find some peace and quiet." When Taoist monks walk in the secular world, the first thing they say is always to introduce themselves to their family. Firstly, it can distinguish between ourselves and the enemy, and secondly, it can save a lot of trouble. Thirdly, if something happened to him as a hero, he could earn a reputation for his sect that was better than nothing. Everyone's attention fell on the face and silver of Jian Nanshan, the man in white. No one noticed the trembling legs under his robe. The next second, everyone's attention was absorbed by Jian Nanshan's words. The dead silence was broken instantly. Some people were breathing heavily, some looked confused, and some didn't dare to say anything. The sound of breathing is endless. The shopkeeper is a fat middle-aged man. He personally wrote the slogan of Sanpingsuan, "Taste tea, taste people, taste everything in the world." At this time, after Jian Nanshan of Tianjian sect spoke, he stared and finally came to his senses. He bowed and took the medicine. His attitude was ridiculously good. "Pengpi is shining, Pengpi is shining. I don't know what the heavenly sword sect is doing. When a great immortal comes, some small ones will be welcomed from afar, and some will be welcomed from afar. Uncle Niu once said that since the Kiju Empress, no one can be called an immortal. But people in the secular world don't think so. The monks have many bizarre methods. They can come and go in the wind and rain, and they are so high up that they are no different from immortals to the worldly people. Most people in the secular world will respectfully call them Shangxian when they meet a monk. Over time, this has become an unwritten rule. Once you stop calling them that, you might annoy monks with bad tempers, causing more trouble or even getting killed. Jian Nanshan frowned again. After the shopkeeper was polite, he thought about what he said before. He quickly put away the money on the table without checking the authenticity, and said quickly, "Pure, clean, keep it clean. There are still seats on the second floor. Son, waiter, Bring distinguished guests. It's a coincidence. The seat that Jian Nanchun was assigned to was right next to the table where Yilin and Wang Xiahua were sitting. There was an empty table in the middle, which happened to be in the corner. The shopkeeper is also a veteran and has a certain level of vision. When Wang Xiahua stepped in front of the door before, he was tall and strong with a knife on his waist. He knew at first sight that he was not easy to mess with, so he placed him on the second floor. Jian Nanchun, on the other hand, was obviously not easy to mess with. He was also placed on the second floor, and it was also in the corner of the second floor, which was obviously a clean place. Wang Xiahua didn't know what happened just now, but the tall Jian Nanchun sat next to him as soon as he saw it. So Wang Xiahua obeyed the order, and after the side dishes were served, he pretended to be a starving ghost and ate to death without even raising his head. Yilin stared at the other person with a pair of innocent eyes. At this time, if I, like Wang Xiahua, pretended not to be interested in the guest in white, then I would be wrong. Sure enough, Jian Nanchun glanced at the two children at the next table, quickly looked away, and didn't take it to heart. He secretly stretched out a hand to his crotch, rubbing something with a calm expression on his face. After a while, tea came, along with 2 ceramic cups. This is another coincidence. Yilin looked at it for a long time, then raised the cup and took a sip to hide her embarrassment. It's really embarrassing. Because Yilin found that her punch of throwing an egg to ask for directions just now seemed to be an unnecessary thing. Yilin's movements were natural, as if everything that just happened had nothing to do with him. When the cup fell, Yilin's expression was as usual, looking at Jian Nanchun with 1 part curiosity, 3 parts childlike innocence, 3 parts naughtiness, and 1 part cute longing. The rain gradually stopped. The water on the street was still flowing gurglingly. Bai Yike's balls no longer hurt. After all, Yilin didn't do anything cruel. After the rain stops, Yilin glanced at Wang Xiahua calmly. Wang Xiahua understood and yelled in his true colors, "Brother Lin, should we go?" "About there." After saying that, Yilin also stood up, and after showing some hesitation on his face, his thin legs, which were about to go downstairs, turned in another direction and walked towards Jian Nanchun. Yilin blinked, looking innocent. "Hey, Tianjianmen, is it very powerful?" Infinity Throne. Author, Bai Shueshi. Chapter 811. Timing is important. If Yilin chose to ask this kind of question when Jian Nanchun's balls were hurting, she would definitely not get a good look. Who can laugh out loud when their balls hurt? Ask yourself, Yilin can't do it either. Jian Nanchun's pain dissipated, and he swayed his legs slightly under the table, looking up at the 2 innocent young men. When his eyes fell on Yilin's face who asked the question, he subconsciously felt an unreasonable disgust in his heart. Oddly enough, he himself couldn't tell where this disgust came from. Jian Nanchun always felt like beating him. But as a monk of Tianjian sect, Jian Nanchun can't bully children for no reason, right? So Jian Nanchun held back. The other party is just a young man who longs for Suanmen. That is it. Faced with this soul-attacking question, Jian Nanchun was not annoyed, and just shook his head lightly. Everyone in the world has a ruler in their hearts. Wang Xiahua was dumbfounded by this force and stayed on the spot. Yilin was deeply familiar with the Riddler's routine. After running these words over and over in her mind, she easily translated Jian Nanchun's words into normal sentences. The translation is, "Others don't know whether Tianjian sect is powerful or not, but I still don't know in my heart." Yilin nodded and expressed his understanding. "Uncle Niu in our village once said that among the 9 gates of Suanmen, some are not as famous as meeting each other, and some are not as famous as meeting each other. I am very curious to which category the Tianjian sect belongs to. So, can I enter the Heavenly Sword Gate today?" Jian Nanchun was stunned. He never expected that the young man would ask so directly. The first question asked whether it was serious, but the second question went straight to the point. Jian Nanchun suddenly couldn't laugh or cry, and the indifference on his face could not be restrained. He was angry and funny, but he couldn't get angry with the two teenagers. Heavenly Sword Sect, this is Heavenly Sword Section. How many people in the world who know about this sect would break their skulls and want to squeeze in? If it is really that easy to enter, can it still be called Tianjianmen? After being stunned for a moment, Jian Nanchun chuckled, yes. Oh. Before Yilin could ask again, Jian Nanchun pointed in a direction. 2 years later, on the coast of the East China Sea, the Tianjian Gate will be waiting for the destined person. After saying this, Jian Nanchun stopped talking to the two children and stared at the cold tea opposite, his expression calm. Just when Yilin was about to say something else, she felt a gentle force coming from in front of her, pushing herself and Wang Xiahua back. This power is somewhat similar to telekinesis, but not exactly the same. Yilin did not resist and allowed Jian Nanchun to cast a spell to send the two of them downstairs. After Yilin and Wang Xiahua left, Jian Nanchun became the only person in the elegant seat on the second floor. Even if the rain stopped, he sat quietly, shaking his legs from time to time and keeping silent. After paying the bill, the streets were still covered with puddles of varying depths. Yilin and Wang Xiahua strolled on the streets. After the heavy rain, the sky cleared up, but there were only a few pedestrians on the road and it was not yet lively. 2 years later, on the coast of the East China Sea. After leaving Sanpingsuan, Yilin and Wang Xiahua walked farther away and hid in an alley. Yilin casually dropped a few nails around them and created a soundproof barrier. This information came easily, but it took too long. Not only is it long, it's also far away. Shangping County is located in the south of Dongsheng Shenzhou, and the coast of the East China Sea that Jian Nanchun mentioned is located in the bay northeast of Dongsheng Shenzhou. Bai Chuchu said that the headquarters of Tianjian sect is located in the overseas Fairy Mountain, probably in that direction. Yilin wrote this down and kept it in mind. 2 years is either a long time or a short time. Yilin has been here for 13 years, what's the harm in 2 more years? After reviving his third life, he gradually felt numb to the passage of time. At this time, Wang Xiahua saw that Yilin was finally free, so he asked what happened just now. Only then did Yilin begin to explain. Of course, he didn't mention the trivial matter of throwing an egg to ask for directions and just vaguely mentioned it. Have you noticed that in fact, Jian Nanchun should have made an appointment to meet at Sanpingsuan a long time ago? Otherwise, there would not be 2 teacups on his table. What then? Then I wasted my time. Yilin said in her heart. He originally wanted to give Jian Nanchun a hammer and force him to rest in the tea house for a while to relieve the pain. But he didn't expect that the other party had already prepared to come here to wait for someone, Yilin Baizui. But hammering is not without its benefits. Yilin took this to verify something from the side. His various abilities also have a certain effect on the monks in this world. It's just that Yilin doesn't know what level Jian Nanchun belongs to in the Tianjian section. He shouldn't be too high level, otherwise he wouldn't have come to this indifferent southern barbarian province. The Dacian dynasty unified all countries hundreds of years ago and became very powerful. Most of the fertile and powerful provinces are concentrated in the north, and the farther south you go, the poorer they become. The capital of the Dacian dynasty was naturally also in the north, named Qingdu. Yilin has been listening to Uncle Niu's nonsense since she was a child. Therefore, even if Yilin does not leave the village, she has a tip of the iceberg understanding of the world's situation. After all, she has been listening to them for more than 10 years. Next, the two of them had some money and found a good inn to rest for a few days. Although Yilin had several destinations in mind, they were all far away and there was no rush. Xiao 11 also made it very clear in her message. In this world, What she left for Yilin was not only 7 keys and 10 messages. And, a long time. As for how long this is, Yilin doesn't know. But even Xiao 11, who is a god, said that it would be long and maybe really scary. Yilin no longer has the mind to care about how much time will pass in the real world after he comes here. A few years ago, Yilin was a little worried. After he returned, everything ended. But after careful consideration, Xiao 11 could not make such a stupid mistake since she could arrange everything after 5,000 years. At the very least, Yilin believed that he and Xiao 11 were on the same side and she would not trick him. So, Yilin has a peaceful mind and is content with studying knowledge and practicing crafts. A week passed in the blink of an eye. Yilin would leave Wang Xiaohu alone from time to time and walk around the streets wearing clean and gorgeous brocade clothes with borders. Shangping County is just a small town. It only takes half a day to walk along the city wall at a normal pace. After going back and forth, Yilin became a familiar face in Shangping County. In addition, he had some capital and spent a lot of money. Many citizens finally had smiles on their faces when they met him. So, just minus 300 charm points, it's not a big problem. When it comes to how to increase the other person's favorability when the charm value is low, no one is better than Yilin. There seem to be more monks in Shangping County recently. Where do they come from? Of course Yilin was not playing around. Not exactly playing. Yilin bought a lot of gadgets during the day, and he thought he could make some weird handicrafts. While playing and half serious, he discovered a lot of movement. The other end. Wang Xiaohu recently felt that Yilin was behaving a little strangely. Wandering around Shangping County during the day. Late at night, Wang Xiaohu vaguely heard the sound of a window opening next door. One night he curiously knocked on Brother Lin's door next door, but no one answered. Brother Lin must be planning some big deal, maybe he is secretly slaying the demon. Wang Xiaohu took it for granted that Yilin had gone to get rid of the demon again and wouldn't let him play with her. Wang Xiaohu felt itchy. When he thought of the exciting experience in Qingyu Mountain and the 10-meter-long white tiger, he secretly felt excited. Then, the sky was bright and clear that day, and Yilin was shaking her folding fan alone again, pretending to be a rich man and going out. After Wang Xiaohu waited for Yilin to leave the inn, he covered his face with a piece of cloth. After a simple disguise, he secretly followed Yilin to see where Brother Lin was going to catch the monster. Yilin wandered here and there, going in circles, until she came to a street that Wang Xiaohu was familiar with. Huh? Isn't it the Sanpingsuan in front of us? Wang Xiaohu was stunned. No wonder it looks familiar. But the next story made Wang Xiaohu even more stunned. Yilin walked past Sanpingsuan and stopped in front of Wangxiang Tower. Beside the door, 2 girls wearing tulle waves waved to Lin Yi, who smiled and stepped in without hesitation. Wang Xiaohu was completely shocked. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 812. Oh, it turns out it's the new Mr. Lin. Generally speaking, the girls who guard the brothels and fireworks are all very beautiful and smart. This is called facade. Otherwise, how can we attract customers? You have to be very proficient in business to be qualified to stand at the door. Look, Yilin didn't even recognize them, but they recognized Yilin at a glance. It seems that Yilin has spent a lot of money in the small town during this period, which alarmed all the sisters in Wangxianglu. Yilin shook her fan. Others were half pushing, but Yilin took the initiative. Before the 2 girls had time to try to express their feelings, Yilin moved first and stepped in. No need, I'll do it myself. The 2 girls were stunned when they saw this and looked at each other. Judging from your age, you are just an adult, right? How can this pace be so skillful? Suddenly, the two front girls felt strange in their hearts. Yilin flicked his sleeves, and two pieces of silver fell into the collar of the front girl in a parabola, and slid into the embroidered belly band. This extravagant move directly conquered them. They were shouting disgustingly, but their bodies were close to each other. Come up. Originally, with Yilin's hidden charm and appearance, it was difficult to gain recognition from strangers in a face-to-face meeting. But Yilin gave too much. No one knows how to increase favorability better than Yilin. Over the years, he has become very skilled at this skill, teaching students in accordance with their aptitude and adapting to people. Shangping County is just a small county on the southern border of the Daqian dynasty, and Wangxiang Tower is already considered a very high-end consumer place in the county. There are many male customers of all kinds inside, most of them are well dressed, and the difference between them and the poor people outside can be seen at a glance. Wangxianglu was considered a leading industry in the Daqian dynasty, with numerous branches in various cities and towns. When Yilin learned about this, you can imagine her surprise. I never expected that in a world with such backward technology and a cultivation-based world, someone would actually come up with the concept of a chain store. The boss behind Wangxiang Tower is a figure. Well, I will receive Mr. Lin. Chiao and Hua, you continue to entertain guests. The girls named Chiao and Hua followed Yilin and led him into Wangxiang Tower, and then a beautiful woman in her 30s, dressed in colorful clothes, with a mature charm, walked out slowly. She smiled coquettishly. After driving away Hua, Chiao and Yinjian, he put his arm around Yilin affectionately, whispered in Yilin's ear with his red lips, and asked in a soft tone, Master Lin, you are really good looking. Simple, I, Xiu Niang, am the shopkeeper of this building. It was a very charming scene, but Yilin was still a little short of Xiu Niang in height at this time. This scene was inadvertently caught by other people's eyes, and it gave a sense of sight like an old cow gnawing young grass, or a young groom driving a large carriage. Many male guests laughed secretly, but they did not come forward to look for trouble. After a simple self-introduction, Xiu Niang went straight to the topic, I wonder if Mr. Lin is here today. Do you want to simply listen to music or just enjoy the scenery? As we all know, the girls in Wangxianglu are commonly known as Xiangfeng in the industry. According to the type of practice, they are divided into two types, Wenfen and Wufeng. To put it simply, Wenfen sells his art but not his body, and Wufeng sells his body but not his art. Each has its own expertise and performs its own duties, with a clear division of labor. Most of Wenfen was carefully trained and was good at playing chess, calligraphy, and painting, as well as painting and calligraphy. Simply holding a lyre and playing a little tune can make people intoxicated. Some people like this method of prostitution, which has a unique taste. This kind of behavior is also jokingly called literary prostitution in the circle. The other kind of martial phoenix is naturally trained, but the training is somewhat special, so I won't go into details here. And the reason why they are called Wufeng is because they have directly seen real kung fu and do not understand the tricks of opera and pipa. This kind of prostitution is called Wu prostitution. The embroiderer has seen many different kinds of people. When she looked at Mr. Lin, she seemed inexplicably annoying at first glance, but when she made such a generous offer, she became much more pleasing to the eye. The embroiderer looked at him for a long time and secretly thought that Mr. Lin's familiarity was definitely not that of a junior brother, so she didn't explain it as soon as she showed her face. She wanted to find out whether Mr. Lin wanted to be a writer or a martial artist. While Yilin was counting the remaining money he had robbed from the gang of robbers and given to the poor, he flicked his sleeves and took out a bright pure silver ingot, which he stuffed into the embroiderer's waistband. The embroiderer was stunned. Yilin smiled meaningfully, I am different from them. This. The embroiderer touched the silver in her belt and said hesitantly. Without saying a word, Yulin stuffed another one into Xiu Niang's waistband. The embroiderer still hesitated. Yulin quickly inserted a third silver ingot. The embroiderer's waist was already slender, and the waistband was tightly tightened. The three sisters' big silver ingots were stuffed in, and they almost stretched the embroiderer's tightly wrapped satin waistband. Xiu Niang took a deep breath, stretched out 2 fingers, and was a little unsure. Does Mr. Lin want to? I'm afraid the girls won't agree. She just finished saying this, and then touched it carefully. Touching the waistband of his pants, which was about to be stretched, a bold idea came to his mind, and he suddenly took a breath. Does Mr. Lin like someone as old as me? I'm afraid this is even more inappropriate. Yulin felt that there was something wrong with the way she opened it. The embroiderer actually misunderstood her own thoughts. Yulin coughed twice. You're King Gluenshu Hall. This can't be said completely. The embroiderer covered Yulin's mouth and pressed her waist, which was bulging with money, against her. Master Lin, please take a moment to speak. Yulin's mouth was covered, but her eyes were smiling and she nodded. The whispers between Yulin and Xiu Niang did not disturb anyone. In fact, every customer who comes to Wangxiang Tower, whether it is a literary prostitute or a martial prostitute, will go through such a process. People, you have to take care of your face. In Wangxiang Tower, the same group of people come and go. Everyone looks familiar, but when they leave the store, everyone pretends to be strangers to each other. Yulin was led into a room by the embroiderer. The embroiderer slammed the door tightly and looked at Yulin with a smile for a moment. Suddenly, her little hand shook, and streams of silver light shot towards Yulin's body. Ding 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 ding. The silver light was clearly an embroidery needle commonly used for embroidery. The few embroidery needles fell to the ground one after another before they could reach Yulin's vital parts, and they missed their mark. I'm sorry, Mr. Lin, I have offended the embroiderer a lot. The Suanman method, I wonder where Mr. Lin learned from it. When the embroiderer saw Yulin's methods, her eyes became more solemn. Her face lost all its charm and was replaced by a cold and stiff expression. In this world, when you are walking outside, there are people behind you who can do things easily. Xiu Niang didn't know Yulin's real intention, but there was nothing wrong with asking the family first. She still had to ask clearly first who could and who could not be offended. Generally speaking, people in Suanman rarely seek death before asking about the other person's origins. If you mess with someone you shouldn't mess with, you won't be able to save your life easily. Yulin frowned. Before he came, he stepped on it in advance. Since ancient times, brothels have been a well-informed place. After visiting the site, Yulin was surprised to find that Wangxiang Tower seemed to be one of the strongholds of a local intelligence organization, King Gluenshu. So today he pretended to be a scooper and came to buy some information. Yulin stared at the embroiderer's bulging waist and asked, I'm here to ask for some news. Don't you have enough money? Are you here to buy discounts? Xiu Niang stared hard at Yulin's face to see that he didn't seem to be deceiving others, so she tried to say some slang in the industry. In the intelligence community, some confidential information is called extracts. According to the rarity of the information, the folds are divided into gold folds, silver folds, copper folds and paper folds. Yulin nodded matter-of-factly, yes. When the embroiderer heard this, she immediately couldn't laugh or cry. Who told you that our Wangxiang building sells discounts? We specialize in selling one's body, a place that sells one's body and one's art. No, the embroiderer was almost stunned by Yulin's round voice. The yes deceived her, and she suddenly woke up. If the other party was really a member of Suanman, there was no way he didn't know all the twists and turns. She was afraid that Qingluan Tree's enemies would come to her door, so she quietly pinched a few more embroidered flowers. With the needle in his hand, he aimed at the vital point between Yulin's legs and continued to ask, Master Lin has not announced his family name yet. Logically speaking, As a Suanman monk, how could Master Lin not know that Wangxiang Tower is not the place where Jiaojizi belongs? It turns out that the process is wrong. When Yilin heard this, she immediately understood where the omission was. He visited the checkpoints and learned that Wangxiang Tower belonged to an intelligence organization, but he ignored a small detail. Wangxianglu is only responsible for collecting information, but there are actually others who actually sell this information. This is a mature intelligence trading chain. Yilin directly bypasses all middlemen and steps on the source of goods. No wonder Xiu Niang is so vigilant, closing the door tightly and poking with needles. I see. But Yilin thought that it didn't matter, it was just a matter of taking less detours and finding another path. The embroiderer's methods were not very good in Yilin's opinion. So, what about bypassing the middleman? Now Yilin really has the confidence to bully others. If you really can't beat him, then run away at worst. Although this world is very dangerous, most people are still quite down to earth. So Yilin calmly made up the reasons in her mind and said them as she made them up, making them sound just like the truth. I have always lived in the mountain gate and never went out. My senior brother sneaked out of the sect for some reason. I followed him all the way to Shangping County. Unexpectedly, my senior brother discovered it and reluctantly left me behind. Yilin sighed and showed a very depressed expression. I have so much cultivation, but I can't find my senior brother. But I overheard my senior brother mention that if you want to buy information, go to the Qingluan tree. Xianglu. So I came here. Your senior brother, Xiu Niang glanced at Yilin suspiciously, looking up and down, as if she wanted to tell which sect Yilin was a disciple from Yilin's young master's attire. She looked at it for a long time, but she didn't expect which sect the young disciple was so proficient in visiting the kills that he could only ask directly. The embroiderer is frightened. Do you dare to ask Mr. Lin who is our senior brother? Yilin squinted his eyes and smiled. Tianjianmen, Jian Nanchun. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 813. Yilin discovered something. Something that doesn't affect the overall situation. Since he left the village after living in Qingyu village for 13 years. Ever since he whipped the tigress Bai Chu into submission. Since he learned about Xiao 11's message. Ever since he bent Jian Nanchun's waist with a punch. He felt a little drifting. Only a little bit. Because Yilin already has a general understanding of the strength of the bottom or middle levels of this world. With his current strength, he can run amok without any hindrance. At least self-preservation won't be a problem. That's why Yilin was a little confused. Otherwise, he would not have broken in after only stepping on the 6th-day mark in front of Wangxiang Tower. However, it seems that the problem is not big and everything will be solved in the end. For Yilin, any difficulty is no longer a difficulty as long as it can be solved. It is nothing more than whether the means and process of solving the difficulty are good-looking and tortuous. When Yilin reported the name Jian Nanchun of Tianjian sect, Xiu Niang believed Yilin's lies. Because of the information she got, a few days ago, Jian Nanchun of Tianjian sect had settled in Sanpingsuan in the city. After arrest, the rain stopped and the wind stopped, and he hurried out of the city again. This information instantly echoed Yilin's words. Moreover, in Xiu Niang's view, among the Suanmen monks, who has some status would dare to make trouble with the Tianjian sect. Although Tianjian sect is not deeply involved in worldly affairs, as the supreme Taoist sect among the three upper sects, Tianjian sect's prestigious reputation is still very intimidating in the secular world. The doubts in Xiu Niang's heart disappeared. Xiu Niang explained that the Wangxianglu chain store was indeed just one of King Gluanche's bases for gathering intelligence. The real intelligence dealers are distributed in the streets and among the citizens. Such as the shopkeeper of Sanpingsuan, the beggar beside the gate of Shangping County, the widow Yang sisters grinding tofu in the next street, or the veteran standing guard in front of the county magistrate's office. They belong to the lowest level in the entire intelligence transaction chain. There will be a special mark of the green Luan tree around them. Once someone recognizes it and asks them for purchasing information, they will convey this purchasing information to their superiors, and eventually pass it on layer by layer, all the way to the Wangxiang Tower in each city. In the hands of the shopkeeper. For example, the embroiderer. Once there is an extraordinary need for information, Xiu Niang will also convey the information to her superiors. Through this layer-by-layer transfer method, the information required by customers will eventually flow into the hands of customers through the same method. This is a cumbersome intelligence transaction chain, and it is also an extremely safe and confidential way. Although Xiu Niang spoke vaguely and in one sentence, Yulin understood the entire intelligence trading network through bits and pieces of words. In fact, this is not an amazing business model. It is nothing more than a layer-by-layer variation of traditional capital operations. But now Yulin directly uses her own method to bypass the middleman and go straight to the supplier, which is against the rules and procedures. I want to know two things. When Xiu Niang hesitated, Yulin expressed her request. First, I want to know the whereabouts of my senior brother Jian Nanshan. I lost contact with him and I am worried that something unexpected happened to him. Second, I want to know the whereabouts of my senior brother Jian Nanshan. I have lost contact with him and I am worried that something unexpected happened to him. I want to know the reason why so many monks have appeared near Shangping County recently. When Yulin revealed the information she wanted, the embroiderer still felt that something was a little wrong in her heart, but it suddenly disappeared. Look, the first thing Mr. Lin wants to know is the information about his senior brother Jian Nanshan. He is worried that something unexpected will happen to his senior brother. Well done, junior brother. Xiu Niang was secretly moved by Yulin's unintentional expression of friendship. Taoist Lin, now that it was confirmed that Yulin came from the Tianjian sect, Xiu Niang quietly changed her title for Yulin. She hesitated. If it is the whereabouts of Senior Jian, for the sake of your noble sect, Xiu Niang, you can decide to give it to the Taoist priest. But if we talk about the recent movements of these monks. Yulin stuffed the last two large spindles into the embroiderer's belt in one breath. Suddenly, the embroiderer's belt finally couldn't bear the weight and was stretched open. Xiu Niang quickly covered her belt and said quickly, as far as Xiu Niang knows, the two pieces of information that Taoist Lin wants to know are actually the same thing. Please say. The embroiderer girl took out the silver ingot from her belt and fastened her belt again, while saying, in fact, Taoist Lin returned to the teacher's door to inquire about this matter, and we may be able to understand it better. But since Taoist Lin came to the door today, Xiu Niang can't let Taoist Lin return empty-handed. Yulin glanced at the silver ingots in Xiu Niang's hands and thought to herself, I don't know if my hands are empty, but you are full of them. In the Wangxiang Tower, a man and a woman were alone in the same room, and the embroiderer told the whole story. It turned out that the cause of the whole incident was a group of monks. This group of monks came from the north and went all the way south. Whenever they pass by a Buddhist temple, they will stay for a few days to promote Buddhism. It was originally a good Buddhist concert tour, but somehow, it provoked some powerful forces in the world. But this group of monks are not ordinary monks. According to legend, they came from Ping'an Temple in Qingdu and were originally Buddhist masters with great cultivation. Ordinary bandits and thieves, 30 or 50 people in number, could not get close to them. But on the way south, even the monks were alarmed. Many Suanmen monks concealed their identities and secretly caused trouble for the monks. After chasing, fighting, and escaping, the monks came to this province. They are currently staying in the Golden Temple, and Shangping County is the closest county to the Golden Temple. This is the reason why there have been more monks in Shangping County recently. And if Xiu Niang guessed correctly, the senior swordsman that Taoist Lin is looking for is very likely to be there. Maybe it's near the Golden Temple. Xiu Niang is indeed an intelligence officer. Along the way, she sorted out the whole matter clearly. In this case, the embroiderer will not send Deist Lin as a gift. The embroiderer finished speaking in one breath and prepared to see off the guests. Slow. Yilin remained silent while listening. When Jiu Niang finished speaking and was about to leave after bowing, Yilin slowly opened her eyes and said one word. This soft word, but as heavy as 1,000 words, made the embroiderer's graceful body suddenly stiffen beside the door. Ha! Yilin tapped the table lightly and said softly in a casual tone, as the saying goes, collect money to do things without defaulting on each other. I don't think the news you told me is false. You probably wouldn't take the initiative to smash the Qingluan tree's sign. In that case, the embroiderer's pretty face changed. But, I'm afraid it's not that simple, right? Yilin squinted her eyes, looked at the embroiderer, and raised the corners of her mouth. To tell you the truth, I know a thing or two about dialogue. Your news is true, but it seems something is missing. Click. Click. Click click click. When Yilin said these words, the entire room, including candlesticks, beds, beams, tables, chairs, doorposts, everything that could be seen in front of him was vibrating crazily at a frequency visible to the naked eye. Dust fell from the beams, as if a big hand was pulling Wangxiang Tower up from its foundation. After collecting the money, things didn't go well. Don't you want Wangxiang Tower? The girls on the first floor also noticed that the whole building was shaking. Those who were attentive discovered that the source of the vibration seemed to be the room where Xiu Niang and the wealthy young man were. In the Wangxiang Tower, there were ordinary artists, and not all the tower phoenixes were affiliated with the Qingluan tree. Therefore, they were stunned by the strange vibration for a while and did not think deeply. Many people stared blankly at the room with the closed door, secretly thinking that this was outrageous. Is it so intense? And a lonely man and a widow live together in a room. The embroiderer's entire face turned pale with fright, and she knelt on the ground. She originally thought that this young man surnamed Lin from Tianjian sect, except for his skillful posture when visiting brothels, was not in touch with worldly affairs and could not understand the mystery behind his words. The embroiderer did not lie to him, and she did not dare to lie to him at all. But she hid some seemingly insignificant information, but she didn't expect that this boy would see it at a glance. Senior Lin, spare your life. Although Xiu Niang has also practiced, her cultivation is shallow, and the gap between the two can be seen at a glance. She couldn't control the ability to casually shake the building. Yilin pressed down her palms, and everything was calm, like an illusion. The embroiderer was kneeling on the ground, with her round and beautiful butt raised high. Even if the shaking subsided, she did not dare to get up. Her head fell on the ground, and there was a hint of crying in her words. It's not that Xiu Niang deliberately concealed it, but this matter involves too much. Xiu Niang, don't dare to talk too much. When Yilin heard this, there was indeed a problem. He heard it just now. At first glance, Xiu Niang's words sounded fine, but after careful consideration, something seemed to be missing. Motivation. Yes, it's motivation. A group of monks were traveling around preaching the Dharma, and they were doing a good job. Why would other people find trouble with them if they were fine? Tianjian sect belongs to the upper three sects and can be called the supreme of Taoist sections even if Jian Nanchun's strength is not considered to be at the top within the Tianjian sect, it still represents the Tianjian sect's ability to walk in the world, and it is a dimensionality reduction attack. Even the Tianjian sect was alarmed, so this matter is not that simple. Yilin has always struggled with not being able to enter that circle. Doesn't this mean that the road will appear naturally? He would not give up this rare opportunity. Thinking of this, Yilin looked calm. With a flick of his finger, he consumed a portion of his spiritual energy and set up a soundproof barrier. The sounds of music, girls' laughter, and customers' shouts all around were gone. Xiu Niang clearly noticed the changes in her surroundings. She raised her head and glanced at Yilin, thinking that Yilin must have cast a sound isolating spell. Heaven knows this, earth knows it, you know it, I know it, I guarantee it with the reputation of Tianjian section. Xiu Niang did not expect that Yilin would use the reputation of Tianjian sect as a guarantee. As we all know, Tianjian sect disciples value the reputation of the sect most. That is the responsibility of the Taoist Supreme. Yilin even brought up the Tianjian sect to talk about the matter, which made Xiu Niang feel more at ease. But she was lying on the ground with a weird posture, gritting her teeth, and she still seemed a little worried. But Yilin's next words dispelled the embroiderer's scruples. If I don't pay for what you say next, it won't be considered a business. When Xiu Niang heard this, she suddenly realized. After taking a deep breath, she finally said, Senior Lin has thought carefully. As far as Xiu Niang knows, the reason why the group of monks from Ping'an Temple traveled thousands of miles southward and came to this place is, because there is a person hidden between them. Who? The orphan of the late emperor who died 13 years ago is the eldest princess of the current royal family. She is hiding among the monks of Heian Temple. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Xueshi. Chapter 814. Yilin's expression changed and she fell silent. He thought carefully for a moment and saw the problem. No wonder the embroiderer deliberately concealed the matter. It's not that the money isn't enough, or that the embroiderer is unwilling, but that she doesn't dare. For Xiu Niang, a monk who is not much better than ordinary people, the implications are too great. The monks of Ping'an Temple held a nationwide tour of Buddhist meetings and hid an eldest princess of the Dacian dynasty. This was obviously a problem. What's even more problematic is that as the monk team went south, people kept looking for trouble, and they actually went after the eldest princess after concealing their identity. Yilin recalled the royal anecdotes of the Dacian dynasty. These things are not secrets, everyone knows them. When Mr. Niu in the village tells stories, he will always say, the late emperor died prematurely and his great work was unfinished. Hundreds of years ago, the Dacian dynasty almost completed the unification of China. The surrounding small countries such as Yunlei Kingdom, Nangsun Kingdom, Ala Kingdom, etc. were all included in the territory, collectively referred to as the Dacian dynasty. Over the course of hundreds of years, the emperors of the Dacian dynasty changed one after another. Until the last emperor, Emperor Xia Yuan. Before Emperor Xia Yuan died, he left behind 3 sons and 3 daughters. Among them, the youngest 3 sons were deeply loved by Emperor Xia Yuan, and he was finally made the crown prince despite all objections. Not long after he was crowned the crown prince, Emperor Xia Yuan contracted a strange disease and died 13 years ago, as everyone knows. The new crown prince, who was only 3 years old at the time, was forced to ascend the throne, taking the emperor's name of Ji Sheng. The eldest princess was only 5 years old at the time. Yilin's thoughts returned to the present. When Yilin was in the village, she always felt strange every time she heard this story. How could a 3-year-old prince ascend to the throne so easily? Are the folk customs of this royal family so simple? It seems that there are many stories in it that are not known to the world. Now, the problem arises. The eldest princess actually hid in the monks' group and traveled all the way from Qingdu to the south. This made Yilin think of a word involuntarily. Escape. Yes, the eldest princess escaped from Qingdu. Why? There is only one truth. It turned out to be a bloody old-fashioned royal struggle. After Yilin understood the information, she felt it was boring. He has no interest in getting involved in these nonsense. History has long proved that in royal struggles, there is no difference between right and wrong, justice and evil. Only the winner is qualified to write history. When Yilin said this softly, Xiu Niang, who was lying on the ground with her butt raised, reached out her hands and covered her ears hard. I don't listen, I don't listen, I don't listen. But after a while, She remembered that the senior from Tianjian sect in front of her had deployed a sound isolation spell, and secretly breathed a sigh of relief. This is also the reason why Xiu Niang dare not say anything. The royal family is fighting, they are just a brothel, how dare they get involved? Even if they analyzed this kind of information through various means, they would not dare to sell it out. Anyone who finds out about this will be beheaded. Get up. When Yilin came back to her senses, she found that the embroiderer's posture was strange, so she asked her to get up quickly and not dirty her eyes. After the embroiderer Yingying stood up, she stood in the corner, not daring to say anything. Yilin picked her forehead with her fingers. He is thinking. But no matter how much dispute there is in the Dacian royal family, it should have nothing to do with the Tianjian sect. According to the information Yilin learned, the three upper gates of the Suanmen where the Tianjian sect is located are more focused on the internal fighting between the Suanmen. The mere battles between emperors in the secular world should not be related to the Tianjian section. But this involvement gave Yilin the opportunity to get in touch with these high-ranking people. That guy Jian Nanshan, ah no, my senior brother Jian Nanshan, when was the last time he showed up? Yilin asked with a straight face. The embroiderer frowned, but didn't ask any more questions. She thought that although the two junior brothers had a good relationship, they seemed to be having a little disagreement. So Xiu Niang didn't pay too much attention and answered honestly, about 3 days ago, someone saw a guest in white staying at the inn near the Golden Temple. According to the news, it is very likely that he was Senior Lin. Yilin thought for a while and asked, the man in white clothes you mentioned, is he pretending? Pretend? Xiu Niang didn't understand the meaning of this word. It means seeming to be quite stylish. Yilin explained. Yes, I heard he is quite stylish. That's him. Yilin nodded, understanding in her heart. Senior Lin really understands your senior brother. Xiu Niang secretly admired him. Okay, thank you for your hard work. Yilin casually removed the sound barrier and said with a smile, this matter will not affect your Wangxiang Tower. With that said, Yilin prepared to walk out. Senior Lin, stay here. The embroiderer grabbed Yilin's clothes as she walked out. She hesitated for a moment and handed an antique wooden token to Yilin's hand with ancient characters on it, engraved with the word. Before Yilin could ask, Xiu Niang took the initiative to explain, this is the Agarwood order. With the Agarwood order, you are equivalent to being a distinguished guest of Qingluan Tree. No matter where Senior Lin is in any Wangxiang building, he can enjoy the treatment of a guest. Yilin was speechless. Visiting a brothel is not my original intention. Xiu Niang covered her mouth and smiled. Xiu Niang means that with the Agarwood order, Senior Lin can bypass the middleman and go straight to Wangxiang Tower to buy discounts. Yilin squinted her eyes and thought for a moment, then put away the token and asked seemingly unintentionally, do you want to leave here? The embroiderer had already expected that her little plan to win over could not be hidden from Yilin. Her expression remained unchanged and she answered honestly, the embroiderer doesn't want to waste her time here. If there is a chance, I hope that Senior Lin can work in Wangxiang Tower in Qingdu in front of Tufeng. I mentioned something. If Senior Lin doesn't want to, Xiu Niang has no complaints. Here's the deal. Yilin accepted this insignificant little gift with peace of mind. Before leaving, the embroiderer deliberately loosened Yilin's belt and messed up her clothes in order to hide her from others, pretending that she had just finished her work. As soon as Yilin left, Xiu Niang also had a red face, as bright as a wet flower, her clothes were messy, and she was breathing heavily. A group of Wu Feng and Xiu Niang were familiar with each other, and they gathered around her, teasing her about how she was shaking the earth. The embroiderer gasped and praised Mr. Lin for his great kung fu and strong strength, which made a group of girls laugh, clench their legs, and feel excited. Someone asked again how many times he had been here. The embroiderer raised her 9 fingers mysteriously. 9 times. Looking again, the embroiderer's legs are weak. No wonder it was shaken so hard just now. Suddenly, the girls around Xiu Niang gasped and did not dare to think too much. Yilin left, leaving a legend in the brothel that no one can break. The embroiderer is famous for not selling her art or her body. Unexpectedly, when Mr. Lin came, he broke the rules with the embroiderer. Was it already 3 days ago? Yilin lowered his head, while arranging the clothes that the embroiderer had deliberately torn apart, and stepped out of Wangxiang Tower. Passers-by cast strange glances at Yilin, but no one looked at her. After all, most people walked out of Wangxiang Tower in this swaying and disheveled posture. Yilin recognized Wang Xiaohu at a glance, hiding in the alley, stretching out half of his body to peek. Yilin walked straight up to Wang Xiaohu. Wang Xiaohu felt that he was covering his face and wanted to pretend that he didn't know him. He coughed twice and was about to say, "Brother, what are you doing?" to hide his identity. Yilin pulled Wang Xiaohu's hand away. "Kleenex, it's time to go." Wang Xiaohu stared blankly at Brother Lin, who looked calm. How could he be recognized? He felt a little annoyed. The first tracking failure made him feel so embarrassed. After checking out at the inn, the two packed their bags and left Shangping County. Yilin spent a few days in Shangping County and spent almost all her money. The only items left in her bag were some small items and personal clothes. It was light and no longer heavy. After walking out of the gate of Shangping County, Wang Xiaohu suddenly remembered that their horses were still parked at the inn, and that they seemed to be heading out of the city in the wrong direction, so he reminded, "Brother Lin, our horses are down." Horse riding, Yilin smiled faintly. Horse riding has to wait until the year of the monkey and the month of the horse. It's too slow. Moreover, the road from Shangping County to Huanghuang Temple is rugged. It has to cross several mountains and go around a mountain road. It can't go fast on horseback. That. Wang Xiaohu just wanted to ask. Yilin lifted Wang Xiaohu's collar with one hand. "Close your eyes." When Wang Xiaohu heard this, he didn't ask any questions. He was obedient out of habit. He closed his eyes and let Yilin do whatever he wanted. Phew! Wang Xiaohu felt his legs lift off the ground and float forward a few steps. Then, he faintly smelled the fragrance of flowers. "All right." Yilin's voice came to his ears. When Wang Xiaohu opened his eyes, he lost his balance and fell to the ground with a fright. In front of you, the golden maple forest stretches as far as the eye can see. In the distance, there is a mountain, also covered with maple trees. In the sun, it is golden and dazzling. On the top of the mountain, a Buddhist tower stands, and the faint sound of collective chanting of monks can be heard coming from that direction, giving the entire Buddhist tower a solemn atmosphere. It's the Golden Temple. Wang Xiaohu was stunned. How could it be that in the blink of an eye, it was already here? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 815. Yilin said nothing. But Wang Xiaohu had long been impressed by Yilin's various magical performances. Uncle Niu once said that real monks have many immortal methods. For example, how to spread beans and make an army, shrink into an inch and travel 1,000 miles in a day, and so on. Uncle Niu may not understand it himself, but he conveys the meaning well. As a result, Wang Xiaohu, who grew up under the influence of Uncle Niu's stories, instantly understood Yilin's story. Brother Lin must have secretly obtained the inheritance of an expert. We agreed to travel together and grow up together, but why did you secretly hook up first? Wang Xiaohu was extremely envious of these abilities. But Wang Xiaohu had a simple mind, and besides envy, he didn't have any bad thoughts like jealousy. In fact, this is not jealous. People's lives are different. Just like he has been playing with the girls in the village since he was a child, Brother Lin has always been spurned by the girls in the village. Maybe there is a deep meaning in this that Wang Xiaohu cannot understand. Golden Temple, this temple, although not big, has hundreds of years of history. The name of this temple comes not from the gold everywhere in the temple, but from the maple forest. This maple forest, except for the snow falling in winter, has golden yellow leaves floating all year round. The scenery is beautiful and famous. It is said that Emperor Xia Yuan of Daqian once paid a private visit here incognito. He was so impressed by the scenery of the Golden Temple that he even left a precious inscription. Of course, the Golden Temple is famous not only for the beautiful scenery around it. The monks inside are really capable, they can eliminate demons and slay demons. 13 years ago, the Lin family and his wife were not afraid of the long and bumpy road and came here to seek a child. Finally, Lin Yi was born. Speaking of which, Lin Yi's birth has some connections with the Golden Temple. Of course, Yi Lin knew in her heart that she was born not because of the Golden Temple, but because of Xiao 11. But it's unclear, and no one would believe it. So every time on Lin Yi's birthday, the Lin family would burn incense and pray for blessings at home, and would thank the masters of the Golden Temple for their immeasurable merits. Yi Lin would remain silent, not bothering to refute. Yi Lin rested on the spot for a while. In this world, it is a bit tiring to open a teleportation circle without the assistance of a hanging ring. He did rely on the mage's suspended ring in the past. In fact, he can complete it without the mage's hanging ring to stabilize the channel. It just requires more concentration and consumes more spiritual energy. Speaking of which, Yi Lin had been trying to draw circles in the world since she was a child. He also discovered something at the same time. Something the mage never mentioned. The essence of Supreme Flow spell transmission is to draw a circle and overlap 2 points in different locations or even different spaces in a folded manner to achieve the effect of instantaneous movement. This effect, explained by scientific theory, is simply a wormhole. But opening this wormhole seems to have something to do with space structure. Yi Lin didn't feel it much before, but after coming here, it became more obvious. It seems that the spatial structure of this world is much more stable than the real world or some of the trial worlds that Yi Lin has experienced. The difficulty of opening the teleportation circle has increased linearly, and the consumption is huge. Well, it's not a big problem, just practice more. Yi Lin thinks this is not a big problem. If it's difficult, just find a way to overcome it. This is how he has always overcome it. A Deng once said in class that the charm of science is to try every means to overcome each problem, and finally stand on the mountain and overlook the ignorant mortals. This makes sense. After resting, Yi Lin stood up with her eyes full of blue. He thought for a moment and stuffed a bunch of grenades with different functions into Wang Xiaohu's hands. Wang Xiaohu was confused as he held the mess of grenades in his hands. This time, Yi Lin simply stopped explaining the functions of various grenades to Wang Xiaohu. There was not much time and no time to explain. So he simply said, if you are in danger, just pull out the tab and throw it out. Although Wang Xiaohu was not very smart, he had the utmost trust in Yi Lin. He nodded quickly and made a mental note. The maple forest is very large. This place is still several miles away from the mountain where the Golden Temple is located. This was not a deviation in Yi Lin's teleportation coordinates, but something he did deliberately. The farther away you are, the more opportunities you have. After all, his purpose was not for the Princess Daqian, but to find a way to connect with the Tianjian sect. He still knows too little about this world. As the Supreme Taoist sect, Tianjian sect should contain a lot of knowledge he wants to know, as well as the top cultivation system in this world. Furthermore, there may be information Yi Lin wants to find in the Tianjian sect. News about 10 messages, 7 keys. Wang Xiaohu and Yi Lin walked through the maple forest step by step. This scenery is somewhat similar to the late autumn district in Yilin's residence, but it is better than the original ecology. There is no road in the maple forest, but there are many people's footprints, leaving traces that extend all the way into the depths of the forest. After walking for a distance, about half a mile, Yilin's face became slightly condensed and she called out to Wang Xiaohu. Wang Xiaohu immediately stopped and raised his front feet without daring to put them down, as if there were landmines in front of him. He asked cautiously, "Brother Lin, what's wrong?" "I can't say." Yilin glanced at Wang Xiaohu, thought for a while, and summoned Bai Xiaoi. This magic trick of transforming a human into a living person immediately shocked Wang Xiaohu. "Hello, I'm Bai Xiaoi." Bai Xiaoi was wearing a snow-white warrior outfit, with her long hair tied up in a ponytail, and she looked heroic. Although Wang Xiaohu didn't know her, the three female spirits Bai Xiaoi were already familiar with the people around Yilin. They recognized Wang Xiaohu at a glance and said hello with a smile. Wang Xiaohu opened his mouth wide. In order to avoid misunderstanding, Bai Xiaoi pointed at Yilin who looked calm. "Don't get me wrong, I am his." Yilin rolled her eyes. "Isn't this a bigger misunderstanding?" Sure enough, Wang Xiaohu was stunned for a moment, then gave Yilin a thumbs up and said in the authentic Lin dialect, "Brother Lin, you are really awesome." He didn't know how to describe it specifically, but in short, it was awesome. Wang Xiaohu looked at Yilin with admiration. He had always thought that Brother Lin was not popular with girls. But unexpectedly, Yilin secretly hid a big girl. No wonder Brother Lin would go to a brothel. Wang Xiaohu realized it. Yilin didn't explain. He quickly whispered a few words in Bai Xiaoi's ear. Bai Xiaoi's expression became serious in an instant and she nodded vigorously. The key is breathing. After materializing, Bai Xiaoi was able to activate his abilities during his lifetime, and a mist appeared strangely, shrouding Bai Xiaoi. After a few breaths, Bai Xiaoi completely disappeared and floated upward into the sky. Switch vision. Yilin closed her eyes, and Bai Xiaoi shared Yilin's vision. In Ling's field of vision, with the golden temple as the center, a light blue cover enveloped the entire mountain. There are many human-shaped light spots, roughly estimated to be hundreds of people, distributed around the golden temple, tightly surrounding them. Yilin didn't dare to step forward rashly. She looked at it with her spiritual vision for a while and thought about it carefully for a moment. He remembered that when he was on the second floor of Sanpingsuan, when he used the big fist technique to hammer Jian Nanchun's legs, he soon felt like he was being scanned by something. Is it some kind of detection technique by the monks? Jian Nanchun. The light blue cover is a bit like the perception of the spiritual apostle after mastering the power of telekinesis, but there seems to be some subtle differences. But they are generally similar in function. After comparing each other, Yilin understood clearly in her heart and returned her vision to the main body. It seems that the group of monks are trapped in the Golden Temple and cannot get out. Combining Xiu Niang's information, Yilin made a preliminary judgment on the current situation. But whether the group of monks surrounded him or not, it seemed to have nothing to do with him. The only ones that interested Yilin were Jian Nanchun and Tianjianmen. I'm surprised how the Heavenly Sword sect could cause such a royal scandal. Yilin thought about it for a while, but couldn't figure out the interest relationship between Tianjian sect and Daqian dynasty. Maybe there was a secret that he didn't know. Thinking of this, Yilin was no longer anxious. He took out a mother and mother nail, stuffed it into Wang Xiaohu's hand, and taught him how to use it. If it was about other things, Yilin might still be a little worried. But in terms of strength, Wang Xiaohu can definitely break a thumb-thick wooden nail with one hand, there is no doubt about it. You go in and squat. Yilin said to Wang Xiaohu with a smile. Ah, Wang Xiaohu was stunned, not understanding what this meant. Bait tactics. If I go in, I will alert the people inside. It's okay if you go in, just cover your face. Bait, who is the bait? Wang Xiaohu asked, scratching his head. The nail is the bait. Having said this, Wang Xiaohu felt relieved. Immediately afterwards, Yilin said to Wang Xiaohu, "Don't you always say that you want to make a living in the world?" After saying that, Yilin pointed to the forest and said with a smile, "This is the world." Okay, Wang Xiaohu got excited and agreed. He held a bunch of magic weapons in his arms, and he was not panicking. Instead, he was looking forward to what would happen if these magic weapons and grenades were thrown out. Wang Xiaohu had just taken a few steps when he remembered something and quickly turned around and asked, "By the way, what about you, brother Lin?" "Me?" Yilin smiled, floated up, sat firmly on the branch of the tree, and opened a broken ancient book. "I will stay behind to hold the battle for you." What Yilin said. It made Wang Xiaohu on fire. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Xueshi. Chapter 816. Wang Xiaohu raised his knife and plunged into the jungle. The maple leaves in the sky paved a golden avenue behind Wang Xiaohu's butt. "Oh, boy." Yilin turned over and sat on a branch, leaning against the tree trunk, reading the family secret book. During this period of time, Yilin was busy with various things, and now she was able to take some time to think about it while she was working at home. Of course, Yilin didn't have high expectations for this secret book. Because among the 5 talents, the talent level of legacy of the ancients is not too high. Moreover, the secret book in his hand was in tatters and incomplete. It was obviously a broken copy. Yilin opened the first page with her left hand, and it was torn away. No wonder it is an incomplete secret book. But Yilin didn't care and started reading directly from the second page. No, the difficulty of reading ancient books suddenly increased, which made Yilin feel a little overwhelmed. First of all, the reading order of secret books is opposite to the reading order of modern people, which is from right to left and from top to bottom. However, Yilin's 13 years in this world were not in vain. After a little getting used to it, Yilin forcibly corrected her deep-rooted reading habits. Secondly, the ancient books that came to me were filled with some rare characters, fake characters, difficult to understand characters, words that looked like words, but words that were not words. As he read, Yilin looked confused and confused. Is this really meant for people to read? At least some vivid illustrations. Yilin and the Lin family's secret book of family history is ready. He held the secret book in his left hand and flipped through the pages. He activated the skills involuntarily with his right hand, and the breeze blew up, forming wind walls that were difficult to detect with the naked eye around Yilin. The power of this skill is limited to this. Wind body. The incomplete cloud body wind body technique. Wind body can wrap a layer of wind barrier around the body when the skill is activated. It does not have much defensive power, but it can carry out long-range attacks such as projectiles and bullets to a certain extent. Trajectory offset. This kind of low-level skill, if used when Yilin first debuted, could still play some life-saving role. But when Yilin reaches the extraordinary level and masters various uses of telekinesis, this ability is useless and of little use. This is the reason why Yilin keeps the skill at the bottom of the box and is too lazy to use it. An hour later, Yilin read the entire secret book 3 times. To be precise, there is only half of this secret book. Half of the book is still in his body. I don't know if this arrangement is a coincidence or if it has a deeper meaning. Wind body was mastered by him in the form of skills. The remaining cloud body is recorded in the secret book in hand. If it's not a coincidence, then there must be a reason for Xiao 11's arrangement. As a result, Yilin became more interested in this secret book. He yawned lazily, changed his posture, shook his legs, stretched, and the day passed in the blink of an eye. Under the sunset, Yilin looked at the maple forest from a high place, and the whole forest was dyed with a golden glow. Yilin looked at this bright scene and couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. It turns out that this is the real origin of the name Golden Temple. Pretty. Yulin looked at the temple on the top of the mountain and secretly decided that one day when he returned to the snow mountain base, he would also build another mountain in the maple forest and build a temple on the mountain for vacation. Suddenly, mixed thoughts flashed through Yulin's mind, and a long-lost melancholy arose inexplicably in her heart. 13 years. I don't know how they are doing at the station now. I don't even know what the ratio of time passing here is to the outer perimeter. Will what he worries about really happen? Can you? I will definitely go back, definitely. Yulin opened and closed her eyes, returning to calmness. With a flick of his hand, 3 figures appeared next to Yulin. Nai Hongzhou looked at Yulin's back. Now they could all say that they had watched Yulin grow up with their own eyes. Even if Yulin didn't say anything or mention anything, Nai Hongzhou, Bai Xiaoi, and Gaijiamai may all notice the loneliness buried deep in Yulin's heart. The 3 mother spirits are Yulin's only connection with the real world in this world. Every time she sees the 3 mother spirits, Yulin thinks of the past and thinks about all the things in the real world. 13 years. 13 years. How many chances do you have to start over in life? How many 13 years are there in life? The 3 mother spirits, whose faces remained unchanged after 13 years, looked at Yulin's slightly thin back and looked at each other. Finally, they made eye contact and decided that Nai Hongzhou, the most mature and steady person, would speak. Officer. Nai Hongzhou was about to say something. Yulin raised a finger. SHH, don't make any noise. Nai Hongzhou stared. Hasn't she started arguing yet? Yulin seemed to be able to read minds, and replied to herself, you are thinking, and you are disturbing me. At this time, even though the bond between them was already very advanced, Bai Xiaoi and Nai Hongzhou still couldn't help but have the urge to beat their master. Yulin turned her back to them and whispered, read quietly. Nai Hongzhou suddenly lost her temper and sighed softly, you have grown up. Don't say such words that will cause misunderstanding. Nai Hongzhou was silent, stretched out her materialized palm, and gently stroked Yulin's hair, her eyes full of maternal love. Don't make trouble. Yulin pushed Nai Hongzhou's hand away. Nai Hongzhou refused to admit defeat and touched it again. Oops, she suddenly found that it felt pretty good. Yulin pushed it away again. Nai Hongzhou touched again. Yulin Ao couldn't bear it and didn't bother to pay attention. In the end, the 3 mother spirits scrambled to touch it. The scene was chaotic for a time. This squat lasted 3 days and 2 nights. Next to the Golden Temple, everyone hiding in the forest is very patient and seems to be an expert. They crouched in the forest, motionless, as steady as a wandering child. Seeing that nothing major happened, Yulin stayed outside Jian Nanchun's detection range and read for 3 days. Eat dry food when you are hungry and drink water when you are thirsty. It is rare to have peace and quiet. He felt that he was gradually getting started. In fact, this is a secret book of cultivation from the beginning to the end, from the simple to the deep. The secret book records how ordinary people practice from scratch. It is clearly stated in ancient books that the world between heaven and earth is full of spiritual energy. It cannot be seen with the eyes and cannot be smelled by the nose, but spiritual energy is everywhere. If ordinary people want to feel spiritual energy, they have to go through a process of sensing energy before they can have the qualifications to truly practice. This qualification is called talent. Talented people may have been unaware of the existence of spiritual energy when they were children, and then absorbed it spontaneously. Speaking of this, the basis of practice lies in exhalation. Inhalation is inhalation, exhalation is exhalation, the sinking of the air in the dantian is gathering, and the flow of breath is luck. To put it bluntly, that is breathing. Well, that translates to, the focus is on breathing. Hey, why is it related to the breathing method again? Yulin was puzzled. Could it be true that the old saying goes that the essence of all power is to arrive at the same destination through different paths? For Yilin, the step of sensing chi was skipped directly. This is not based on Yilin's talent, but on several lifetimes of experience. The experienced Yilin had been able to faintly detect the existence of spiritual energy a long time ago. The engraved wooden stakes he made actually used the spiritual energy dispersed in the air to achieve the effect of saving spiritual energy. Unexpectedly, by accident, I became a monk with half a bucket of water. Yilin was quite emotional. Sure enough, no matter which world or era we are in, scientific knowledge and theories are universal. No matter how outrageous or ridiculous the two are, they can all be explained by science and find common ground. That's why Adeng repeatedly emphasized that young people must believe in science. Yilin realized. Master, there seems to be movement on the mountain. Bai Xiaoi and the other three, who had always been by Yilin's side, coming out from time to time to read, watch, fan, and squeeze shoulders, suddenly spoke up to remind Yilin that there was movement in the distance. For the past 3 days, at the foot of the Golden Temple Mountain, which had been very quiet, faint shouts of killing could be heard. Bursts of fire surged from the forest at night. Yilin raised her eyelids slightly, glanced at it from a distance, and then lowered her head. Well, there's no rush. With that said, Yilin turned another page of the ancient book in her hand.